Hello and welcome to another Intro to Programming and Database tutorial. In this tutorial we will going to be exploring why you will going to be needing to write functions. In the past tutorials we have explored sub-procedures, and you can see an example of a sub-procedure right over here. It is called submain. We have modularized our code last week, and we looked at the fact that how you can go about dividing up your main logic into smaller components and pretty much control those components from the main. But a sub-procedure is something that is called, it does its work, and at the end of the work the control comes back to the main. On the contrary, function is something that is like a sub-procedure. You call it, it does something for you, but then it also returns a value back to the caller. Like for example over here we have a function called cint. It takes a value, which is a string, and returns back to us an integer. So this is what a function does. On the same grounds, we're going to be writing a function which we're going to take some repetition out of this code or some complexity out of this code, and we're going to return something back to the main. Now notice the difference between writing a function, we're going to call this function getValue, as opposed to writing a sub-procedure. So that's one difference, that we use the word function versus the word sub. Also, we use the word as followed by a data type which will going to basically tell the underlying compiler what kind of value this function will going to be returning. And then there's a special statement called return, which is required by the function, which basically returns a value back to the caller. So the complexity that I want to take out of the main here is, I want to take this logic out of the main, which is accepting an input from user. So I move the logic right into getValue, and I replace this code with a call to getValue. Now you will going to notice that on this line, enter value of number, the message will be displayed, and instead of having a local cin system.console.read line, we're going to call getValue, and all the logic and all that fuzziness will going to be in the body of that function. So let's compile this code and execute it so that you can see the working of it. Currently, when I accept a value in number, I'm sitting here. So I entered 45, and now when I say enter value of number, now I'm sitting right over here where the logic is similar but the code is much different, and I get the same value back. So the behind the scene working may be different, but actually in front it works exactly the same way. So now I've replaced both of these calls with a call to getValue, and as you can see the working is exactly the same. Now one of the benefits of doing this is, if I really want to move this entire logic of accepting an input from the user, I can very well do that. That's going to tremendously reduce my logic, so I can basically move this thing out of the main, and I can give this whole logic over to getValue. So every time getValue gets called, it automatically displays a message to the user and takes an input from the user and simply returns that input back to the main. So you can see how less of a clutter the main looks right now. So if I run this program, we're going to work exactly the same way as it was working before. One of the other advantages that I can look into here is, for example, I can use my getValue for anything, for accepting any kind of integer input, not just a value of a number. In order to do that, I can actually pass a customized message from the main into the body of getValue. And as we have learned in the past tutorials, that whenever you want to pass a value from a caller to a call, it can only be passed through a parameter. So we will going to declare a parameter as part of the getValue, message as string. So this will going to be the message that the main will going to pass, and that message will going to be the message that will going to be displayed inside the system.console.write. So that will going to be the prompt message. So right here I say, okay, enter year of birth. That's a message in the first call. So it says the value of number is this. And this is the very first call that's being made to the getValue. In the second call, I'm using the same getValue, but I'm saying, okay, enter year of hire. Okay, so the idea is the same for the getValue. However, the context is extremely different in each of the two cases. Now let's try to run this. And you're going to notice that the first message that is received by the getValue is enter year of birth, because that's a message that we've passed over. You enter, let's say 1929, enter, and now it says enter year of hire, and you answer, let's say 2009, and here you go, it displays a value back to you. So the working is the same, but we have now utilized this function very efficiently to pass it a message of our choice from the main and make this function work however we want this function to actually work. So there are a lot of benefits to using function, and this was only one of the first tutorials I want to introduce to you so that you can see the beauty of using functions. In the next set of tutorials, we're going to be exploring this idea a lot more. Thank you for watching. Have a